Hello and welcome to Patch. I'm your host, Paul James. Today I'm joined by Matto Phillips, and it's been a little while since we've had him on board, but Jamie Penningh, how are you, mate?
I'm good. Yourself?
Very well. Matto, how you doing?
Oh yeah, the normal. Unlike Jamie, he's talked about before how cold it is up in Queensland, and for us
14,
it's just
15 degrees. I'm like, wow, that's
wow.
cold. We're colder than that all day, every day. Bastard. So, as people might have gathered, we've been teasing this a little bit in the last couple of episodes. Jamie's on board to talk Nintendo with us. We aren't, as per what we suggested last week towards the end of the show, going to rank the Zelda games and then specifically play the majority rules card so that Breath of the Wild gets an F. Just to upset Jamie, we won't.
And everything else gets an S. Everything.
Yeah, everything else is S tier, except including Link's crossbow training, except Breath of the Wild that gets an F because it's not a Zelda game, so it shouldn't be on the list. But we'll save that argument debate for another time, because very conveniently we had Jamie lined up, and the Nintendo gods were smiling upon us because they gave us a Nintendo Direct Mini partner showcase this week with a lot of third-party stuff for us to discuss. So we thought, let's pick through the contents of that and then have a more broad conversation about how all things Nintendo are tracking. But before we go kind of on an item by item sort of basis, were you both fairly happy with how the showcase went? Like, was there stuff? Did everyone feel like there was something for them along the way? And Matto, let's not count Monster Hunter in this because, of course, we already had we were like 2 days away from it anyway. But there was nothing new there for us. But anyway,
Yeah, no, it was nothing new. I was like, yeah, you can show the trailer all you want. I've already pre-ordered it, and so far since playing it, I've had my ass kicked multiple times.
I haven't even started yet. I haven't downloaded it yet. I was expecting a code. The code hasn't come, so I think I might just have to knuckle under and buy it. But
you're missing out.
Again, first world problem. But was there anything else there for you? Like, did you have some games that kind of floated the boat?
Not really, because I think it was just one of those unknown territory where it was all third party. You thought, okay, what third party games are we going to get?
It turns out it's Square
on
Enix.
Nintendo. And yeah, well, it should have just been called the Square Enix Direct.
Jamie, what about you?
Square Enix Direct and Sonic.
Oh yeah, true. I forgot about Sonic. And Xbox.
And Disney. Disney.
Jamie, what about you? Did you feel like there was at least, I mean, again, we'll go through the specifics shortly, but you feel like there was something there for you at least, or a couple things there for you?
Yeah, definitely. Being a Nintendo exclusive player, pretty much, there's a lot of third-party titles there that I haven't had a chance to try, and I know that people that only own one console, for like Switch, for example, may not have had the opportunity to play some of these. It was definitely a direct that probably Nintendo needed to have, really, because we know some of their first party lineup for the rest of the year, but now that they've brought all these third party titles through, it really sort of solidifies the remainder of the year outside of their first party.
Yeah, outside of
exclusive
Splatoon, Xenoblade,
Pokemon. Yeah.
Is there anything else? Oh, and potentially, I think, I don't know about the both of you, but I feel like Advance Wars is like, yes, I know what their rationale was in the first place around the war and those sort of things, but I think at some point their bottom line starts talking to them. They go, well, we need to get this thing out.
Yeah, so, I wouldn't be surprised if that comes through maybe December? Or January next year, that they bring that back.
Holidays. We shall call it
that holiday, or
the holiday period.
And I guess the other thing that we can kind of factor in that wasn't shown during this, but during the Final Fantasy VII showcase the other week, there's also Crisis Core, which again, Square Enix, but like Crisis Core, that remake is coming to Switch as well. So there's another little third party title that's going to drop somewhere in that December, potentially, either early January, February sort of window as well. So, and I'm glad to hear that. Jamie, in your case, there was a few games for you. Matto, you might want to just crack open a book like that Final Fantasy episode at this point, hey?
Oh yeah, I've run out of books.
I'm sure we'll be able to extract some wonderful insights.
I've got a Witcher book over there I could read. I haven't started that yet. It's been sitting there for 6 months.
Oh, there's books sitting on my bedside table.
Because there's a TV show like, oh yeah, I can't wait for the show. And then, look, there's a book. I'll read that. And then I realised I don't read books. Or many books.
I was about to say, you guys read books?
I used to a lot.
Yeah.
And I just, there's no time, not enough
Yeah,
time in the day.
many years ago.
No,
Yeah.
I haven't really
Yeah, no.
advanced from the kids' books.
Oh, I've got a
If
lot of
it's-
those for you if you
Yeah.
want.
So if it's anything higher than
Plenty, got
Grug,
plenty.
then
We can just Jamie can send a few down the post. I'll drive a few over to your place, and we can read Spot together.
Spot. I've read Spot in years.
All right, let's get into the meat of this episode, which is the actual contents of the showcase or the partner direct. So we'll go kind of in the sequential order that things were kind of shown off. So we'll touch on it very briefly because again the game is now out. But Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak was there. What do we think? Matto, you're obviously playing it.
Right. Look, I didn't need any more convincing. I was convinced when they first showed it. Oh, hang on, let me join you too. Hang on, just let me have a drink as well.
Well, yeah. No,
But
that's fair.
like, I was already convinced when they showed it. I don't know if it was a Capcom thing or was it a Nintendo Direct thing. I can't remember.
Oh, the Capcom thing recently.
Yeah, when they said Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak's coming out next year, I thought, cool, I'm buying it. You don't need to convince me. You don't have to show me any fancy monsters or anything like that or what new upgrades there are. I don't care. I'm buying it no matter what.
That's fair. Jamie, what about you? Are you a Monster Hunter Rise person?
No. The only sort of Monster Hunter I played was a demo back on the 3DS, and
Oh,
I didn't
like 4
yeah,
or Try or one of those.
something like that. And yeah, I couldn't really get into it, and I sort of haven't really paid attention to it since. But it does look like Rise and the DLC has got quite the roadmap going into the rest of this year in 23. So looks like there's going to be massive amount of content for anyone who is playing Monster Hunter Rise.
Yeah, it does seem like Capcom has a bit of a roadmap in place for just Monster Hunter in perpetuity now. Because even in the case of World, which was obviously PS4 and Xbox One, but like there was that, and then a year later they had Iceborne, and then it was only a year after that, and we already knew about Rise at that particular point, and that was only another that was 18 months from the launch of Iceborne. So they seem to have a bit of a plan in place now, that, like, to really look after the current title long enough that the next one then arrives, and regardless of whatever platform that happens to be on. So they're onto something there. They're doing a pretty good job. And Jamie, I'll just I reckon it's worth giving it a crack, because I was a bit like you, put off by some of the old ones. They were really heavy. They gave you no context, no information. They really left you to kind of work it out yourself, and it could be pretty overwhelming for a lot of people at first. Whereas what they've done with World specifically on the PS4 and Xbox One, but built upon further with Rise, is they've really made these games far more accessible. So I don't know, maybe even consider the demos and stuff that they've put out. See what you make of those. It might be to your liking these days.
Yeah, I might just check out because there is a demo for Sunbreak, I believe. So as Rise is supposed to be probably one of the more accessible Monster Hunter games of recently. So yeah, might be worth a download just to have a look at it and see how we go.
I saw your hand go up there, Matto.
Oh no, I was going to say, to start off with, I was with Paul. I was not really a fan of Monster Hunter, and it's also looked at it and thought, this is not really my style of game, and then I played it. I've been a fan ever since. I thought, wow, I don't know what the excitement is of just absolutely hacking at a monster and, I don't know what you call it, hunting it.
Yeah.
I used to say drop it as I used to say, or capture it, and I thought, what's so rewarded about hunting a monster? I just don't understand. But with Sunbreak, though, you can't play Sunbreak unless you reach a certain level.
Yeah, you got to basically finish the main game in full first.
But you can play the Rise demo, no problem. Just watch out for that. Just watch out for that bubble monster. That's all I will say. That damn.
That's well documented here through patched and the player 2 plays. It shows us getting our asses kicked before.
We played a whole hour and just failed completely.
Now, the next game is one that, Jamie, I think you kind of touched on as someone who is kind of exclusive to the Switch, hasn't been able to actually try this one out, and people have been enjoying it on other consoles for a while. Nier Automata, the End of Yorha edition, which naming conventions is something that they do really, really well there at Square Enix, and especially with Nier. But what did you make of Nier coming across to Nintendo?
I love the look of it. It's something, it looks something similar to titles such like Astral Chain that Batman Platinum Games did,
got
along
Matto
with
interested
Nintendo.
there.
Yeah,
But,
no, when I first played it as well, I thought the exact same thing. I thought, a bit Astral Chains in this one.
Yeah, it's something sort of similar along those lines, and it actually looks like it runs quite well. Like, I'm presuming that this is Switch footage that's on the video. That
You'd hope so, yeah.
yeah, that it actually runs quite well. I think they've said that it's 1080 30 docked and 720 30 in handheld, which
That's all right.
it's going to be all you need, really. I mean, I know on the other consoles it probably gets up to 60, but 720 30 will run fine on the handheld.
Just, I guess, dropping the nugget for the both of you there, in terms of potentially turning you on to Nier. You've obviously both just mentioned that you're a fan of Astral Chain, and that's developed by Platinum Games. So is Nier Automata. So
It felt like it because I think the voice actors sound exactly the same as what was in Astral Chains. When I heard,
really?
I was like, "Hey, you're that guy from the main other game."
I still haven't played Astral Chain, unfortunately.
Oh, you're missing
play
out.
Need to
it.
change
You're-
that. I know I really
missing
need to change
out.
it, but it's just
It
one
is
of those ones I've
brilliant.
slipped through so far. So yeah, that's coming out. I don't know. I think it was just 2022. I don't think they gave a specific date. So just, I guess, keep our eyes and ears.
I think
out
it's
for
later
that.
this year. Yeah,
Yeah.
later this year.
Good thing it wasn't on a PlayStation or not giving out dates.
No, I'm actually, we may as well, since we've had the opportunity, I must say I'm really disappointed that Corey Barlog didn't come out during the Nintendo Direct and announce the God of War release date. This is ridiculous. I'm so over this.
More disappointed he said it's coming exclusive to Nintendo Switch. That would have been
Oh,
just say.
the fights would have started.
I think outside of Santa Monica Studios would be on fire if that was the case. But
to quote,
and also,
Ryan Benson in the latest episode of For the Players, hashtag dicks out for Kratos apparently is the thing at the moment. So.
But the thing is though, if it was on Nintendo Switch and got released, blah blah blah, it wouldn't be Corey Barlog's fault. No. As always, it's Alana Pierce's fault.
Yeah, it's Alana Pierce's fault because she's a high-profile woman at the studio. I know it's ridiculous. The way that whole team is being treated is insane. Konami was there. Super Bomberman R2. Did either of you?
I didn't know
Super
Bomberman still existed.
I think we skipped over one, didn't we?
There
wasn't there.
sorry, good point. Lorelei and the
We're
Laser
dropping
Eyes from Annapurna.
Yeah, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. I'm quite interested in this. Like, it's the art
crime
style.
one?
Yeah, it's like black and white with
Black and white.
I just
with
remember
the-
a dog. That's all I
Yeah, the
remember.
monochrome look.
yeah.
It comes from the same team that did Sayonara Wild Hearts the other year, which was huge kind of on iOS specifically because it launched with the Apple Arcade when that first popped up, but also did pretty well for itself on consoles as well. So
But it's like a murder mystery sort of 2.5D isometric sort of puzzle sort of game. It looks nice. Like the art style is quite good looking. So I'm curious to see how deep it is because it looks like it might be just a 5-6 hour game by the looks. But I think with those sorts of things that you don't really need it to drag out too long.
Yeah, you don't want them to outstay their welcome. Matto, what do you think of it?
Oh, sort of partly interested, but not much. I just thought, it's one of those. It's probably one of those crime mystery things where you have to find this, put it together. Like Resident Evil, but with less horror and a man with a hat. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, okay. That you can shoot off.
That you should off it.
All right. Well, now let's turn to my error from before. Yeah, Konami's back with Super Bomberman R2. The original one was a launch title for the Switch. And yeah, to your point, Matto, prior to that, it had been a long time since we'd seen Bomberman.
I thought Bomberman died a long time ago because the games themselves sort of went really downhill quick. I remember there was Bomberman 64, played that a lot. Then after that, everyone just said the same things like, "Oh, what is this Bomberman rubbish?"
Well, these Bomberman titles are the only kind of new original games that they're bringing to consoles these days. They've had a Castlevania that they brought to mobile, but they're not giving any love to Metal Gear. They're not like Bomberman. Bomberman's basically it at the moment. So it's interesting that they're sticking with it. And I mean, the first game was received pretty well from memory. I can't say that I tried it out myself, but I feel like the general consensus was it was pretty decent.
I think the first game, yeah, it was okay, but not great, and then they did eventually, with through updates, polish it up and
Yeah.
make it better. But I think I could have sworn that they said that they're ending support for the original, and then they're just switching focus to Bomberman R2. But
Yeah,
I
right,
could be
okay.
mistaken. Yeah,
Well, that's I guess I'm looking at the trailer right now, and it's coming to all platforms, and it's out 2023. They've just kind of given that vague window at this particular stage. So, speaking of franchises that have kind of been languishing for a fairly long time, but their publisher has given them a lot of love in recent years, Mega Man Battle Network
Mega Man.
Legacy Collection. Fans have been screaming for it after the the core Mega Man collections, Mega Man X. I'm sure there was another like sub franchise that got a collection already as well. I don't know, they're putting out so many of them I've lost count, but yeah, the Battle Network Legacy Collection is on the way. What do we make of that?
I've never played a Mega Man game in my life.
no, neither have I. So it's
No,
sort
that's
of
fair. I'm a little bit the same as the both of you. Though this is more of a turn-based thing compared to the other Mega Man games, so it's a bit of a change of pace in that sense. But I don't really know much more than that, so I'm a bit with the both of you. And Xbox fans are in an outrage because for some reason they're the one console that's being skipped when it comes to this particular game. They've got all the other
strange.
collections and all that sort of stuff, and Xbox just isn't getting it for some reason, or at least currently is not getting it.
I'll be honest, they're not really missing out on much unless they're all big Mega Man fans, but
Oh yeah, but it's a bit weird.
Play
Like
some
you've
other
got
games,
Xbox and you've been
man.
able to play all the other sort of legacy collections, and then suddenly this one isn't. It's a bit odd, but anyway, that's
go play the
that's
Ninja Turtles, people. Go play that.
yeah, Ninja Turtles is great. And again, speaking of franchises that have kind of been, well, they're old and dusty and kind of coming back in interesting ways. Pac-Man World Repack, so a remake of Pac-Man World from I couldn't even tell you how old
PlayStation
that game is.
1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an old
What?
game and it's being remade. What did we make of that one? Because it was interesting.
I just laughed. I go, what? What is this Pac-Man business? I thought I remember him from the old video arcade machines. Then it just comes into a 3D world. Like, what the hell is this?
Or Smash Bros.
Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's where we all know Pac-Man from. That's where his first game was, right?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Nothing else that was important before that. Just
What? Say it's a
This is
PlayStation 1 game.
yeah.
Was-
Apparently, I mean,
So it's
I
like a
certainly-
game no one asked for.
Certainly knew it was old. I didn't have PS1 in my head but Jamie's thankfully been able to clarify that one. But
I only know because I've heard others say it's PlayStation, but yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's I never had a PlayStation, so it sort of didn't really. It looks alright for what it is, but yeah, it's a 3D platformer.
yeah, and it's coming out August, which is not necessarily the worst time in the world because they're getting it out before specifically before October, because October is an absolute mess at this particular
it's
point
ridiculous.
for games. But even in a quiet year, October is absolutely insane right now. But yeah, look, I mean, Bandai Namco, they're getting it out in August, so
I say it's a very, very original story that Pac-Man one.
yeah, I couldn't even imagine. Like,
I was like, wait, hang on a second. Pac-Man has a family?
Well,
there's Miss
I
Pac-Man.
think Pac-Mum was originally
Pac-Mum.
Mrs. Pac-Man in
About
the
Pac-
original,
Pac-Dad.
but they don't have the rights.
right,
So-
okay.
Oh,
I think, yeah, off memory. So that's why they had to change that. And apparently there were like 2 sequels as well to Pac-Man World that people think that should have come in a collection, but we've only just got the first one.
Well, they're doing a full-blown remake, so look out for Pac-Man World Repack 2 and Pac-Man World Repack 3. I'm surprised I managed to chain all those words together. It was a fair effort, self-fired. Next game is Blanc, as they pronounced it. It's a French studio, indie title, monochromatic thing. I thought this game was absolutely gorgeous in terms of like the way it looks and whatnot. Gameplay-wise, it kind of, without using it in a derogatory way, it's kind of a walking sim from the look of it, like a basic puzzle walking sim. But what'd you
that-
both make of it?
I was just trying to remember. Is that the one where you can play
Deer and the dog.
online with another
Yes.
person, or is that another game?
No, you can do online with Blanc.
Yeah, the deer and
we-
the wolf, or the cub.
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
the
one.
one.
Yeah. No, look good. I was just hoping. I just thought in my head. I thought, how funny would it be? the deer goes to sleep, and then the wolf just eats it.
Oh, didn't you see the logo? How they were snuggled together.
No, I think that's a lie.
Yeah,
Aw.
they're best friends.
But then I remembered it's Nintendo. Nintendo would never do that.
They wouldn't
No,
allow that.
See, they couldn't even kill Mario off. Let's be honest.
Well,
when
they
he
did
got
kill Luigi,
stabbed.
remember?
But when
We
they
saw it
did
in
the
the
old
Smash Brothers
the
trailer, he
sword,
died.
it stabbed him and he didn't really die. It was
This
a
is being
stitch up.
done by Gearbox.
Yeah, that's
It
the
is.
weirdest thing. It's being published specifically by Gearbox.
Published.
Yeah, they've got a publishing
Yeah.
branch, but it's really not a Gearbox game for the most part. But I'm
Remind
glad
me
that
what,
they've given
what
it a home.
other
It looks really
titles
nice.
they've done.
Well, the
They're-
only ones you have to remember is just Borderlands.
Yeah,
and
that's what I
just
thought.
forget
Yeah.
the
Duke
rest.
Nukem Forever.
Don't
Yeah,
worry about the
It's,
rest of it.
it's
this
just-
blog sits right alongside Borderlands and Duke Nukem Forever perfectly. But no, they've kind of in recent years developed a publishing arm. They had Tribes of Midgard or something. I think was a game that came out a year or so ago. I think that was the name. That was a Gearbox publishing thing. Like they are throwing some of their Borderlands money essentially around at indie developers and giving them a home, which is really great. It doesn't feel like the right fit because of what we tend to think of with Gearbox, but I'm glad that
Yes.
someone's
It
popped
looks
this game up
gorgeous.
because
It looks
great.
gorgeous.
Looks great.
I'm double checking Tribes of Midgard right now, but it'd be good if I. Oh, 2021 game. I reckon I got. Yeah. Tribes of Midgard was the game. So good on Gearbox Publishing. Anyway, the next one, which has also created a bit of a stir over the course of the week because of art styles, unfortunately, is Return to Monkey Island. Firstly, anyone who's treating Ron Gilbert poorly can go
Yeah.
the same way as all the people who are sending dick pics to God of War developers. But setting all that aside, because that has been run into the ground in terms of like the community's conduct over the course of the week, and I don't think we really need to add to it too much. But what do we make of the game itself? The fact that Monkey Island is back, and I mean, we obviously saw the announcement a couple months back, but what do we make of what we saw?
Interesting compared to the first one. I thought it looks like Monkey Island, and I wasn't sure until he said his name. I thought, yeah, that's Monkey Island for sure. I'm just not sure how it all works though. I don't know if you control with the stick because usually it's a click and point type of
It's usually a
thing.
point and click
Yeah.
style game.
I don't know what this one's going to be, which is going to be interesting. We'll find out when it comes out. It's not that far off coming out, isn't it? I remember.
So it
Sometime
is still meant to
22.
come out this year, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure we saw a trailer for it early in the year. We were talking about it.
Yeah,
Or
it
was
was
that a
only,
different one?
It was basically E3 key 3 time that we got the announcements. So it's all still pretty fresh in that regard. And yeah, I guess one of the important things was that it's coming first to Switch on the console side. It'll be PC day and date because you're right. I think it's still going to be that point and click style game, and that does work on the console. There's plenty of games that have made it work. It's not as clean and easy when you're kind
That's
of
doable.
using the stick to move your cursor around the screen, but it does still work.
Makes me wonder if they're going to have touch controls for Switch in handheld as well.
That would be cool.
And I think they've said that this is going to be the last in the series of Monkey Island. That this game is going to be the last one.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit of a miracle that we're getting a new Monkey Island game in 2022 anyway, so I think it's more Ron Gilbert's got to love there was the right idea and they're putting a game together, and well, everyone else that's on the internet that doesn't like it can just take a hike.
Exactly.
Here was one of the, I guess, kind of moving away from those smaller scale like titles. We can move on to one of the biggest games coming to the Switch for the year, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which unfortunately the date leaked for 24 hours beforehand thanks to Ubisoft this time. They screwed it up themselves.
Ubisoft.
Look, last time, the game actually leaking in the first place, they can blame Nintendo for that one. Nintendo listed it on their website.
So it's a payback.
So they're just squaring the ledger up, yeah. But what are we both making of Sparks of Hope? 'Cause
Looks
for me, this is
amazing.
the big highlight.
Looks amazing.
I was just
it-
laughing at the Luigi.
Rabbid
Rabbids.
Luigi's always funny, but what about Rabbid Rosalina? Like, she just looks like, nah, I don't give an absolute crap about this. I'm just gonna lean over on this rock and not do anything
my
until
own
you
thing.
tell me to do.
The one that's kind of, I guess, thrown me off has been all the fuss about this kind of Boo inspired Rabbid that's kind of popped up. There's people losing their minds over one that's kind of it's not kind of in the key art or any of those sort of things, but like a very kind of ghostly styled one, which I don't know, not about it.
I haven't seen it, to be honest.
Me
Because
either.
unfortunately, it's set off a bunch of fans in a similar way to Bowsette. It's gotten a little bit
Oh,
ugly.
okay.
If I guess if you want, like, it's an official thing, but then the internet has kind of gone again. Gamers being gross, things are kind of taken a bit of a turn from there. So I can't even work out what the exact name. What is it, like? Ghost Rabbid? I don't know. Boo Rabbid.
Rabbid Boo Rabbid.
What do they call it? News.
Wouldn't be very. I feel like it won't be the most creative name, or they could come up with a creative name. Who knows?
Well, why didn't it just be Rabbid Boo or something like that?
We'll have to use it as the key image for this episode now that we've got it. Not the overly gross sexualized ones, but yeah. Anyway.
Maybe we just put in Kratos as
It
well.
wasn't so much a ghostly one, it was more emo-y and all that sort of stuff. But anyway.
Put Corey Barlog with the Nintendo thing over his head and just put all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We'll have a bit of fun with that. But yeah, any other thoughts on Mario plus Rabbids? October 20 is the release date. It's kind of close.
I think it slots in well, really. I was sort of thinking that was going to be more of a August sort of game, like the last one. But October, yeah. Currently, Nintendo, we don't really have a lot going for October. To have a Mario game in there, even though it is a tactics game, it's still a good thing for coming up into the holidays towards the end of the year.
Yeah, it's kind of the timing is an interesting one, and I guess this doesn't apply to someone like yourself, Jamie, who's only on Switch. But if people dabble in either PC or the other consoles or anything like that, the interesting thing, I guess, in terms of the market share and where fans of the genre specifically might go, will be interesting because the game comes out 2 weeks after Marvel's Midnight Suns, which is like the exact same tactical style thing from the kind of kings of that genre. So I'll be kind of interested to see, I guess, where do people go now? Obviously, the game is still going to sell well. It's a Mario title. It's exclusive to the Switch, so you're going to get plenty of people that will buy in. But I wonder if some of those sales, not necessarily a huge percentage, but some of those sales might just drop off simply because some people might have gotten their fill from that genre by that stage. If they've gotten out 2 weeks prior rather than 2 weeks earlier, it might just be that tiny little. And again, it's only a small portion of the audience. Really,
I think they can both cater to both markets. I mean, you've got Marvel and fans of Marvel, and then you've got Mario and fans of Mario. So I think the two can coexist around the similar time. But yeah, I see your point about people with multiple consoles that they might have to choose, but I reckon still both can coexist and still sell well. Yeah,
I think it's more the kind of got my fill of this genre sort of thing. So if they manage to get Mario and Rabbids out first, they might have maximised that as opposed to potentially lost, 5%, 10% of their potential audience because, okay, I've just played one of these. I don't know if I'm ready to go around with another one of them because they're lengthy experiences.
And the games always go on sale like down the track anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mario plus Rabbids gets real cheap.
Yeah, you can always get Mario plus Rabbids, the original, for $20, $25, even less these days.
Yeah. Do either of you have much to say about Little Noah, Scion of Paradise? Neither do I, really.
No.
Procedurally generated by the looks. Getting just people and friends recruited. Yeah, it's okay. It's not selling anything big, but it's on the Switch right now. So
yeah, that was kind of the day one stealth drop, which is cool in that sense, but otherwise, I can't say I'm overly interested. Matto, I know you're not. We don't need to waste your time.
When you said the day, I was like, I completely forgot what it is.
Yeah.
It's like,
next one, speaking of Noah's, my son Noah lost his mind when I was watching this back at home because it's called Railgrade. It's a great game about trains, and he loves
train
trains.
game.
So I'm 100% going to be buying this game. It also looks kind of cool. Just, I guess, setting my son's preferences aside, like a kind of Sim City style thing, but just exclusively train networks and all that sort of stuff. I can get right around that. It's a bit like mini Motorways that's kind of out. It was recently launched on Switch, but little bit more AAA, I guess, in terms of the way it looks and those sorts of things. I'm into it.
Definitely looks like it gets complicated.
Oh yeah, it'll get complicated.
Yeah, get
I think
real
they make
complicated.
it look complicated. They're just doing showing off their fancy. Hey, look, you can do this, and I'll be there just making one straight rail. No bends,
Just
not
run
whatsoever.
straight lines. It's just
A straight rail.
CBD where we're just running.
No
Running
turns
grid.
whatsoever. Just straight.
Break through the hill. Just
Straight
don't
through
worry
the
about
hills.
it.
No, don't go over it. Just straight through.
I'll take the extra cost to go underground, but I'm just going straight from point A to
Go
point B.
straight. I'll build an expensive bridge over the water. I'm not going around it. Going straight over.
Another game that's actually, I think, has already launched on Xbox previously, if I recall. I've certainly seen it at Xbox showcases in the past, but RPG Time: The Legend of Wright. It's coming to the Switch this August. Any thoughts, ideas, recollections of the game?
Looks nice. Like, I love the little hand draw, like the fact it's in a children's art book, and drawing like things into the map and erasing things, and it's like a turn-based sort of battle with the picture that's in the book, and using your calculator, and it's like, oh, this looks interesting.
It's interesting for sure. Matto?
Well, we were talking about books before. This is right at my level.
So there's a guaranteed sale. Matto's picking that one up in August. Next up, a game that is being hotly debated by fans of the franchise all over the place, and then you've got media people who've gone hands-on and saying this is a worry. But anyway, Sonic Frontiers, what are we thinking?
I'm scared.
It looks empty, but it's heard that it looks better than what it did in previews.
Yeah, I don't. It may have just been a case that it didn't preview overly well, because, like, I guess maybe with the background and kind of writing and getting preview ops and those sort of things, like, I'll respect anyone who's gone hands on and is saying I'm not so sure, because they're saying that for a reason. But yeah, it's not. It's showing better than that in the trailers, I suppose, and that could be good marketing on Sega's part.
And I've heard that it's not quite open world. It's like open zone, like something for like Legends Arceus, for example, where you had the different zones that you could travel to. It sounds like this might be something similar to that, rather than just a full open world like Breath of the Wild or something like that.
Which is for the benefit of the game, really.
Yeah, because if you just had the one world, it would get probably pretty boring really quickly, because you're just going really fast from one end to the other. And if they mix it up, see how it goes, really.
Matto, Jamie has said a trigger word for the both of us in Breath of the Wild, so I don't know if you were going to be piggybacking on that or.
No, not at all. It's just the Breath of the Wild. Like, fair point. It's not open world, but I looked at it and thought it looks interesting, but my problem is it going to be repetitive? Because that's my biggest concern. Because I don't know, it looks like you just collect rings. I don't know if it's going to be like like your old Banjo-Kazooie types and just go to a world, collect your rings, and
you need to get a certain number that allows you
like
to
the
progress to
thon,
the next.
get your little Knuckles trophy or whatever, and then you're done. On to the next one.
Could be something like that.
Could
And
be.
actually, I mean, just to quickly touch on it, like, the open world of Zelda is not of Breath of the Wild is not the issue that I've got with Breath of the Wild. So I actually the emptiness or perceived emptiness even of Breath of the Wild actually works to its advantage. It's the destructive.
But this looks different. Like,
this is different to that.
It does look a lot emptier than, like, there's a lot of open spaces, and I get that, you want to go fast because you're not really exploring those open areas. It'd be interesting to see how it goes when it releases.
Yeah, agreed. Do we have any thoughts on Disney Dreamlight Valley coming to Switch via early access in September?
What the hell?
That about summarizes it. The silence says everything
It's
we need
like
to do.
a Disney Animal Crossing. Like, kids will love it.
Yeah, good luck to them, I guess.
And people who enjoy Disney. Yeah, that's probably all that it appeals to, and it's a game loft game, so there's going to be microtransactions out the wazoo. So same
the early
with
access component is weird though, given all the things you just said. The family friendly people who like Disney, and then you give them an early access title. That feels weirdly counter to what Disney would want to achieve. They want a clean and polished thing ready to go so that we can squeeze every cent you've got out of you.
unfinished.
Yeah, so maybe just hold off. It's Disney. You don't need to rush this thing out. You can launch a Disney product whenever you want.
Was Speedstorm unfinished as well? Because has Speedstorm, the racing Disney game that was...
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. I thought, don't they have a racing game somewhere?
Yeah, because that was Game Loft as well. And
I don't know what happened to that.
I thought it came out in like early access as well.
Well,
so,
it sounds like they're making bad decisions left, right, and centre then. But let me have a quick look.
Yeah, because
there was a closed beta that ends on July 6th for Disney Speedstorm.
It ends on July 6th. Where did it open? I never heard anything about it.
Neither did I. I'll just kind of click around through Twitter here.
There's 3 days left.
Audio blows us away. There was a tweet on June 30th, so actually when it opens, closed beta end date. Disney Speedstorm closed beta will end on July 6th, which means you have 7 days of racing left. I don't know when it actually opened. That's not quite... I'm not too sure. But anyway,
so...
they've had an open beta for it.
Yeah, the Game Loft games... Yeah, they might not be going as well as they should be.
Yeah. Next up, a game that got a demo drop straight after the event, and again kind of highlights the Square Enix component of the showcase. Live Alive, I don't know.
Live
Alive. The SNES era JRPG that never got released outside of Japan, that is now coming to the Switch and is getting the HD 2D treatment. Matto, I know you're not big on it. I don't need to ask you.
I'm just going to sit here while you two talk about it.
I haven't tried the demo yet, so I don't need
I have tried the demo. I tried
Please, preview it for us. Afternoon. There you go. Here's our preview.
It looks gorgeous. Like the HD 2D really pops through on the Switch. I played the Feudal Japan chapter, and I played a bit of the Distant Future one. The Feudal Japan, where you play as a ninja and you're infiltrating this fortress of a feudal family. And the idea is you've got to try and sneak around, and you get this ability to basically hide yourself while you're going around. But you can do that, or you can battle the enemies that appear on the map, and then you go into a battle screen where you basically go on like a 6x6 grid, and every time you move, the gauges on your character and the enemy character increase. So
I'm following.
When you launch an attack, you use up all your gauge, but then it tends to fill up automatically. Whereas every time you make a move around the map, you can move freely, but it fills up the enemy gauge. And when it's full, then the enemy does their attack.
Yeah, okay. So there's an interesting strategic component to that I can get right away.
Yeah. So it's all about positioning your character. Eventually, you'll have more on your team. Like in the demo, you only play pretty much as one character. But you get attacks that either like close range or range, like free. What's the term I'm looking for? Like range attacks that hit all the enemies in the area that it's motioning to, and it looks really good. As I said, I played the Feudal Japan one, and that was quite good fun. That one, and the Distant Future one, I have only just started. It was about 30 to 40 minutes I played of the chapter before it said that was the end of it and switch over to another one. So it gives you that little bit of taste leading into its full release come July 26th. So 26?
Yeah. No, 22nd. 22nd.
Oh, 22nd, yeah.
But yeah, it's all much for muchness. Yeah, okay. I was keen anyway. I think I had a pre-order down, ready to go for it, but that's solidified things for me. And also 30, 40-minute demos. I can see 3 player, 2 players in that. So, because there's 3 different paths we can choose from?
Yeah, there's 3 chapters. There's the Ancient China, where you do Feudal Japan, and Distant Future.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. I'll get around it. And I'm just curious because it's a game that we never played over here in the West, and because it wasn't really, I guess, one of the high-profile ones, it wasn't even one of those ones that. If a fan translation for a ROM ever emerged back in the day when I was using ROMs on the regular, I never heard of it, so it just kind of slipped through the cracks anyway. So I'm pretty excited by this.
Looks good.
One game that, despite being a fan of farming sims, I'm not at all a fan of is Doraemon, Story of Seasons, Friends of the Great Kingdom, which is a Story of Seasons game, which should be great. But then with this Doraemon, I don't know. Can someone clarify for me how this thing's pronounced?
Yeah, Doraemon.
It is Doraemon. Okay, cool. Thing put over it, which there was one that came out a year or two ago, and I tried it out, and it really didn't hit like a Story of Seasons or old school Harvest Moon game did. So I'm not full of hope for this one either.
I thought this one would have been right up your alley.
Yeah, the Story of Seasons component, yes, but it was I don't know, however they tried to blend things in the case of the last Doraemon cross Story of Seasons game didn't work, and so I'll keep half an eye on it because maybe they'll clean some of these things up. I don't have any knowledge of Doraemon at all, which kind of holds it back a little bit further for me as well. Matto, do you have any thoughts on this one? Yeah, we'll pass.
I mean, you can just not talk to me for the next 20 minutes for the last few games that were on there.
Minecraft Legends?
Oh, no, keep going.
We just pass on that one as well? Jamie,
Yeah,
what about you?
I just saw Minecraft, went, nah. Steve's not in it, don't care.
Yeah, look, they showed it at the Xbox thing. They announced it at the Xbox thing the other week because obviously Mojang's owned by Microsoft. But so this was just basically that same trailer again, but saying, hey, we're coming to Switch 2. I'm like, okay, cool. I assume that, and I assume it will come to PlayStation as well because that's what they've been doing with Dungeons and the core Minecraft, continuing to update it and all those sort of things post-acquisition. So, yeah, pass. Dragon Quest Treasures. Again, Matto, I don't think you've got anything to say here, but Jamie, any thoughts at all?
No, I sort of haven't really dabbled in the Dragon Quest games. Yeah, so I don't really know that much about it. I
was foaming at the mouth over this.
Yeah, I could have
I
sworn it
thought
had
that.
been already announced at some point.
Yeah, they announced it like middle of 2021 because Dragon Quest had its 35th anniversary last year, and they had a big celebration for it where they announced this, and they announced a whole bunch of other Dragon Quest related titles as well. That was where they announced the HD 2D remake of the third Dragon Quest game as well. So I wasn't at the time. I wasn't of the impression that this was coming exclusively to Switch, which it turns out it is, or at least it's a timed exclusive, whatever form that ultimately takes. But yeah, I kind of like it. Like I guess it's got a bit of a Pokemon-y sort of feel where you're kind of collecting them on. Like you can actually the monsters that you normally fight in battle and all those sort of things, and they faint and they move on, or they die and they move on. And you move on, like you can kind of bring them into your party in a way here, and they'll kind of accompany you around the world, but then they do interact with the world as well, and so you can kind of fly across to different locations if you've got not fly like as in a Pokemon style fly from town A to town B, but actually they lift you up and fly you across this out of reach place that you can now get to and explore and all that sort of stuff. So I'm kind of into the possibilities with the world exploration there that comes from it, but December 9th is the release date, so that's kind of I guess what will most likely be the final Nintendo Switch game or exclusive game for the year in terms of kind of AAA side, unless, as we discussed before, Advance Wars drops into December somewhere, potentially. Captain Velvet Meteor, the Jump Plus Dimensions. Thoughts,
Now,
ideas?
this was in the sizzle reel that was sort of towards the end of the mini
They
direct.
breezed through it, yeah.
Yeah. This was the only title that was basically brand new in this whole sizzle reel because they showed Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, they showed No Man's Sky, A Plague Tale, Requiem,
Which
Cloud
is not now listed,
version.
but yeah, coming to Cloud.
Yeah, Cloud version, so we won't get to play it. And then there was this one, and I think there was I think it was just this one. And yeah, it's sort of like we don't know anything about this, but here's like 3 seconds of footage.
Yeah, they didn't show a lot. It's
It was only
Manga
3
company.
seconds. That would explain everything. I blinked for 3 seconds. I must have missed it.
Yeah, I tried to cobble together a news post based on like for one of the other gigs that I've got, and I was a little bit at sea for a long time as I was going through this. It's like a publisher of manga titles that's decided just this year to get into video games. They announced it a few months ago, apparently, but then it popped up here, and even then I was very confused because Jump Plus apparently is a property in the manga scene. I don't know. I was quite confused as I went through it, but we'll move on from that one to talk about the fact that Portal, the companion collection, which is Portal 1 and 2, has come to the Switch. Any Portal fans here?
Never
Never
played.
played it.
Damn it.
It's one of those
neither
games
have
I should play.
I thought
It's one of those
someone would
games I was hoping that they would just announce Portal 3 on the Switch, because that
Can
would
you
just
imagine?
piss off every PC person around. It's like, what the hell, Gabe? Or
We
Valve?
just created this handheld console style experience that
Oh
basically.
yeah, they got the
us trying to
handheld
make-
one. I
Which is
forgot.
basically
Yeah.
us trying to make the Switch redundant, but then we'll go and announce Portal 3 and make it exclusive to Switch. just to piss you right off.
I completely forgot about that old Valve handheld one.
Yeah, because we can't get it over here. Though, Drew Agnew of the House of Mario has ordered one, as I learned through the week listening to House of Mario. He has ordered one from someone in the UK and is getting it delivered here within the space of a month. So he'll be the first person I know kind of locally that's actually got a...
The only person in Australia with a
Might be one of the very...
Steam Deck.
But what I've heard, he's already having issues with
what
that
issues he
delivery. With that delivery, so I don't exactly know. But
What's in the box? Is it?
No, I think there's if it's been
Steam
delivered to a
Deck.
wrong address or something like that
Oh,
in
shit.
a different place.
Oh, no.
So yeah,
Oh,
hopefully
Oh,
it's
no.
I was listening
sorted
to the
out.
show, and most of this is documented. He was having like confusion around PayPal and all sorts. You can tell he hasn't done a lot of online buying over the journey, and certainly it was his first through eBay.
for their eBay. Oh dear.
That's not. I'm worried. For
Yeah,
him. All the best.
Did he
Drew.
read the
Hopefully it
writing
arrives.
correctly? Did it actually say Steam Deck or Stream Deck?
Yeah, he's just got an
It wasn't
Yeah.
or was it Elgato? Yeah.
Good luck to him, and then if he can play Portal on it when it arrives sometime in 2023 for him. I mentioned being a fan of farming sims before. Harvestella is the second last game that we'll be talking about here. Another Square Enix job, but they're getting into farming sims of a sort where they just straight up have like a season of the year where the whole world is basically just on fire, which was kind of a different take on how to do farming. Well, not on fire, but like just basically obliterated. Like nothing grows, everything's dead. It's pretty bleak and depressing. But what do we make of Harvestella, ignoring the atrocious name that is just Square Enix's MO?
game looks really good. The different seasons that come through. The farming looks a bit simple from what we got in the trailer, but how the different seasons look, especially when the fifth season Quietus comes through and basically annihilates everything and makes you basically restart. It's like I'm not really into sort of life sims, but this has piqued my interest because it's also got like an RPG element where you got to go around and gather materials and defeat monsters, and yeah, it certainly looks interesting.
Yeah, they're certainly pulling on a whole bunch of other systems, which is why I can kind of forgive the farming if it's a little bit more basic, I suppose, compared to some other games, or I guess games that exclusively dabble in that. So your Story of Seasons and your Harvest Moons and Stardew Valleys and those sorts of games. But even then, Stardew Valley has lots of other systems. But again, they're not trying to do it on this AAA sort of scale. But it's coming November, so we can kind of learn a little bit more about it fairly soon, I'd imagine. And the final games, I guess, to show up after everyone was having a bit of a chuckle at the expense of Nintendo fans following the Xbox showcase that they were getting Persona 3, 4, and 5, when everyone had been for years saying, bring Persona 5 to Switch. There was all these people having a bit of a laugh at Nintendo fans because it came to Xbox and still nothing for Switch. Well, turns out, exact same day and date as Xbox, they'll be getting Persona 5 Royal, and then gradually, I think in 2023, if I recall, from the Xbox showcase, we'll start to see Persona 4 Golden, which was the Vita title, and Persona 3 Portable, which was the PSP take on Persona 3 from the PS2. They'll be starting to roll out as well. So, again, Matto, sadly, I think our last game there, you have very little to say when it comes to Persona, but Jamie, as someone who's not been able to play the Persona games up to this point, I guess, or most, like the core games, I should say.
First off, I'd like to apologise to everyone who has said that Persona 5 was never coming to Switch, because I've always been that one person that said it's not coming, because Atlas were just dragging their heels, when it turns out they probably just had an exclusivity deal with Atlas for a certain number of years until it basically ended. Now it's coming to Xbox and now Nintendo Switch as well. I'm looking forward to having to go up Persona 5 Royal because looking at the trailer, like I've never really sort of paid attention to anything outside of what I've seen in the mini direct regarding Persona.
Yeah.
But I would like to try it. Like it definitely looks like one of those games that I would personally
Takes
enjoy.
100 hours of your life.
Yep, sweet.
But I mean, look, I haven't played Persona 5 as much as I'm a JRPG guy. It's kind of been on the quote unquote too weeby side for me. As much as I still like, I hear so much praise. At some point I want to give it a go, and I do have Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal here. Like I own them, but I just haven't been able to quite bring myself to playing it. It's one of those weird things for me. But I don't know. Maybe the Switch version is the best thing for me because it's portable. I can like that intimidating 100-hour sort of figure that has previously required me to be in front of a TV and stuck there the whole time is less of an issue now. Now, sure, I don't like my car trips to work are 5 minutes long. I obviously can't drive while I'm, like I don't have the train trip thing that I used to have back in the day when I'd smash out some JRPGs while I was doing an hour train drive to Bendigo. But again, like I can sit there in my work lunch break or whatever and play it. Like maybe the Switch version is the way that I can actually get in. I don't know. We'll see.
I think JRPGs or any RPGs in general on Switch are just going to be more convenient to people because of that portability element.
Yeah.
Because especially with long ones like Persona 5, like your Fire Emblem Three Houses, like they're really good games that you can pick up, play for half an hour to an hour, and then put it back down, and you pick it up back from where you left off. It's really easy to do that, especially with Switch, and it's certainly going to appeal to more people rather than sitting in front of the TV for 100 hours playing a single game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the beauty of some of these Switch games, and you referenced a couple examples there. They're the sort of game that you can play for hours and hours on end, or they work as that quick burst sort of experience. They work both ways, which is really kind of important. So that wraps up the showcase. Now we began with some like top level sort of thoughts on it. And now we've gone through the specifics, so we don't really need to kind of close with another kind of holistic look at the whole thing. So let's look more holistically at Nintendo and how things are kind of going for them. We've got, I think, a fairly clear picture of what's going on with the Switch towards the back end of the year, and we touched on some of those before with Pokemon, with Splatoon, with potentially Advance Wars. There's a game that I'm now going blank on.
And a Blade.
Yeah, Xenoblade obviously is less than a month away. Like they've kind of got the drip feed going for the rest of the year. That we continue to hear the rumors now about Metroid Prime, and apparently that's now just being remade on its own. So, and that might even be this year as well, from what the reporting suggests. But I guess, how do we feel about where the Switch and Nintendo are at big picture? Because we've now got the third-party suite to kind of complement the official first-party stuff that we know about. Matto, you've been quiet for a while, so maybe we'll start with you just to get some... Like, how are you feeling about, as a Switch owner, you happy with where things are at and that you've got a sufficient number of titles to keep playing in the future? Or are you starting to feel like they're lagging behind because of the power of the other consoles?
Well, for me, like you said, like you two, Paul, I've got other consoles as well. Usually my thing is just, I got a Nintendo, I play Nintendo-based games, and for Nintendo side of things based, I think it's still good. You just say, oh, it's a terrible year, blah, blah, blah. It's not. It's just, there's a few more third-party games that we've seen in recent years, because usually they've always been a very strict, you either work with us or get lost. That's, well, not like that, but it's like,
in the nice
you either make a game for us or go away.
Yeah.
Go make a game somewhere else. Or,
I guess you kind of touched on an interesting bit there, like, oh, and I've just gone blank on what that was, but
consoles.
Well, yeah, I mean, the luxury of having the other consoles and those sort of things does kind of change the scenario for say you and I, which I guess is where your perspective here, Jamie, will be really, really handy. As someone who exclusively, or more or less exclusively, plays on Switch, how are you feeling about where the Switch is at and the titles that are coming?
I do think that Nintendo is missing that one more title for this year, because currently we've got we've got Xenoblade, we've got Splatoon 3, we've got Pokemon coming out in November. I still think they need one more in that between October and December sort of period.
Do you think Advance
just
Wars
to,
is that game, or are you thinking something else that's a bit larger
no,
scale?
I think it needs to be larger scale. Like Advance Wars, like it's an strategy strategy game that sort of appeals to a certain market, whereas there's no, apart from Pokemon in November, there's no sort of mass appealing game
Yeah.
that's yet to be announced.
Well,
Or
Splatoon fits that bill, I'd say.
yeah, Splatoon's massive in Japan. Like
Yeah.
that'll sell absolute bonkers over there. But I think in the Western market, I think there's just one more thing that's missing. The third party lineup is absolutely solid. Like, and it's not like Nintendo haven't been releasing titles this year. Like that, we've had Legends Arceus,
No, they've done well
we've
so
had
far.
Kirby, we've had Switch Sports, we've had Mario Strikers Battle League
Was
Football,
it
and
the triangle one? Was that?
Triangle Strategy was
Triangle
obviously wasn't-
Strategy as well.
Obviously wasn't a Nintendo title itself, but yeah, it was exclusive to the console.
But they definitely had a solid year so far. Like, it's not outstanding like 2017, for example, where you had Zelda, Mario Odyssey, and all that sort of stuff. But
Well, I mean, that kind of shows really, and you touched on it perfectly before when we were talking about Mario and Rabbids, was the fact that like it was kind of an August title back in that year. But I guess the important thing to kind of keep in mind, 2017 when that game came out, it was bookended by Breath of the Wild and then Mario Odyssey. So it didn't need to be that center stage style thing. Whereas in this case, and it's a Mario title, so it does kind of become outside of Pokemon. It's a third party title, but it probably is your marquee title for the back end of the year in terms of the stuff that is purely exclusively Nintendo branded properties and those sorts of things.
and like there's still titles that we don't know of that are meant to be releasing in 2022. For example, Bayonetta 3. Like we don't have a release date for that yet either, and it's still saying 2022. And like I said, with Advance Wars, it could slot in at some point towards the back end of this year or even the early next year. So, there's something missing, I think, but for the rest of it, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think like we used to have those conversations, like I guess prior to the Switch, about there's good years and there's bad years for Nintendo, and you might get the year that's got Breath of the Wild or like a Zelda title, and then you've got another year that's got a Mario and maybe Smash and those sort of things. But then the rest of the year would be really quiet around it. You don't really have that anymore because of the fact that before they had to separate their resources. They were shared between the console experience and the handheld one, and now everything is together. It doesn't matter whether you're making a game that kind of looks more like the traditional handheld style experience or is more your AAA style console experience. Their home is exactly the same. So the console is being constantly populated with titles these days, which is fantastic if you're a Nintendo Switch owner. Because firstly, you don't have to have different sets of hardware to access all the games coming from Nintendo. But they're also seemingly almost every iteration on the franchise at the moment is almost the best version that we've ever seen for the most part, which is fantastic.
But really, Nintendo hasn't really had a bad year since the Switch launched.
And that's kind of the key idea there. I don't think we're going to see bad years anymore.
Like even 2018, when the only things we had that I can think of at the top of my head were Pokemon Sword and Shield. We had Smash. Smash was 2018. Fire Emblem, Three Houses, Octopath Traveler.
Is that 4 years ago?
I thought
yes.
Octopath was 18.
Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem was 19.
Oh, it was Fire Emblem 19.
Still, 3 years ago.
Yeah, that one's only in the head because I had to double check that when I was doing my Three Hopes review the other day.
Yeah, because DKC Tropical Freeze came out in 2018 because I got that and Octopath at the same time. So that's probably the only year that you would say it's a bit okay, but you still had Sword and Shield and Smash Brothers at the end of the year, so it doesn't look so bad. But otherwise,
Astral Chains came out in 2018. Was that later?
Which one was that?
Astral Chains.
No, that was 19 because I got that the same as Fire Emblem.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Let's say so. There's like 2 years there where it just all mashes into one, so I can't really remember.
And interestingly, you're picking years pre-pandemic, not even 2020, 2021.
Yeah, because even like 2020 had Animal Crossing, and that just blew up because everyone was shut down. So
everyone was at home just digging holes and putting apple trees in
Good times.
and
for a few months.
oranges.
But yeah, I guess I don't think there's for as long as Nintendo sticks with I guess the Switch style console or like I guess the handheld and console experience being united. I don't think we're going to see bad years for Nintendo titles anymore, especially if they can get a couple, third party things along the way. But that said, the third party titles that they're getting are now coming from the same, and this is kind of we see this cycle happen. It happens to Nintendo consoles often. It happens to it happened to the PSP and the PS Vita, where like it starts off. The support is coming from basically all third parties. I think in the case of the Switch, the only real exception was EA, who didn't really play ball early on, or at all,
and still don't.
Yeah, but
It's a 10.
They haven't seen a 10 in a long time, so let's not worry about them. But these consoles, whether they're the PlayStation handhelds or Nintendo consoles, tend to fizzle out in the same way where we see, okay, it's the JRPGs, the more obscure JRPGs, Square Enix, Bandai, the lesser lights that start coming to those platforms, while the big ones, and we can kind of look across the bow and see, okay, now not that I was saying Final Fantasy 16 should ever have or would have ever come to the Switch, but we see the big ones going there. Dragon Quest 12 I don't think is confirmed for the Switch. It could be, I may just be misremembering that. Forspoken, new IP, big consoles, or like the big boy consoles, quote unquote. And kind of the smaller scale things are starting to pop up the Switch. Now, I think we're at that same sort of point where we're starting to get into that loop, which I don't mind as a person who's a fan of those sorts of games for the most part, but usually indicates that, and I think timeline-wise we're pretty close to it anyway, is that the new console pretty close? Like, when does a Switch 2 or a Switch successor, and I don't mean Switch Pros and all those sort of that rumor-mongering that end up being the OLED, but like, how far are we away from what would be a follow-up to the Switch at this point?
I reckon... See, they've got a bit of a dilemma because the next console has to be backwards compatible. Like, they can't just ignore 100 million plus Switch base going into the next console.
The console's still on trajectory to be the best-selling console of all time if it keeps going the way it is.
Exactly. If they keep selling 20 million a year, they're laughing through the door. But they've got a real dilemma on their hands because the next console is not going to be as successful as this, because it's going to be a hybrid system like what it has been. But how do they improve that? Like, the only way they can improve it is the hardware specs, and making sure it can, run the more recent games that are starting to appear now exclusively for PS5 and Series X and S.
Yeah, that's kind of their trick when it comes to that third party side. Is we know the Nintendo titles, they don't even need to necessarily leverage Ultra HD or 4K sort of visuals to look stunning. Like,
no, exactly.
They look fantastic. Breath of the Wild 2 will look amazing. Again, whether it's a good game or not, we'll discuss that another time. But like, it will look fantastic. Like, visual side, Nintendo, no issues there in that regard. Gameplay, obviously, gameplay is king, and they do a fantastic job in that space. But yeah, what the third parties want to do though, where they're not quite as able as Nintendo in a lot of those areas, might start to force their hand a little bit as they start to say, well, we can't put this, a Switch SKU out now, or it's going to cost us too much to kind of, for want of a better phrase, downgrade our game to make sure it can run on the Switch. Like, those sort of conversations are going to start to happen more and more often if they're not already, and that may force their hand. So I just can't help but feel like 2023 is not the year, but 2024 probably has to be the year, and that's a good amount of time anyway, considering the Switch came out in 2017.
I think that's when it'll probably start hearing announcements of a new console will be in 2 years' time, and then it'll release probably the following year, probably 25.
Oh, okay. See, I was more of the mind that maybe announcement next year, 24 release. But Matto, what do you think?
Well, it depends how much silicon they can get, because you ain't got no silicon, you ain't getting no
in
chip.
the world anyway.
No Switch.
Console right now.
But being Nintendo, they'll find a way around that and go, hey, this is a silicon-free chip, and everyone will go, oh, we got to buy it.
It's held together by magic.
Sony and
Don't
Xbox
ask
will
questions.
be wanting to know how they do it.
But Nintendo have always had their people saying that the Switch is a 7 to 10 year life cycle console. Like they're really pushing it outside of what would probably be the norm, is to say 6 to 7 years as for a console life. So I think if they can keep the 20 million sales up, then they can push the new system back, because obviously Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC is not going to continue to sell Switches for 3 years time.
No, it's only so long that can kind of hold up. It'll be an interesting one actually to see where how all this lines up, and there will be the idea that we got our ideas for Mario Kart 8, but we're kind of a one Mario Kart per console thing. So when do we actually get to start working on this? Well, when's the new console coming? Like those sort of conversations, even internally, might have to fuel a little bit of a when do we get this thing out conversation. So it's gonna be kind of fascinating. And then there are things like this constantly dangled Breath of the Wild 2 carrot that's just there. When does it drop? Is that kind of the game that starts to serve as the final curtains for the Switch in a way? Again, 2023 seems maybe just a smidge soon. Depends when on 2023 I guess it comes out, but I don't know. It's an interesting place that they're in. Any other thoughts on kind of where Nintendo's at?
No. I think we covered it. But I gotta say, they got 7 to 10 years, but I think they just look at it and go, we've got no competition. Who's gonna beat us in a handheld competition?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like
Nobody.
the Steam Deck is not really competing with the Switch.
Well, we'll ask Drew that when he gets his in 6 months' time.
6 months, and it's a Stream Deck instead.
Just completely different markets.
Or it's just a Switch with just the word
Steam Deck.
The old Sony controller. I guess
Steam Deck.
You're right that it's not competition, but it'll be interesting to see. And again, this is just purely that visual sort of thing. Like there is now evidence out there of what a current gen kind of console handheld thing can do. Does that elevate the expectations of fans and maybe even? Well, I mean, I think it absolutely does that in terms of visually what the thing can do. But what does that do internally to Nintendo? I don't know. My gut feels probably not a lot, because they'll just go about do things their own way as they've always
they'll
done.
just do things. They're like, whatever. Cool. They're finally caught up to us. Let's do something else and make them look like fools.
Yeah.
But if the other, like Sony or Xbox, come out and say no drifting, no drifting,
no joystick,
drift free, everyone will go, we go do about that Nintendo. Nintendo will go, whatever. You wait.
We'll take the L.
You got to think price point too. Like the Switch retail is $470, whereas Steam Deck, and then there's like a couple other ones that are coming to the market that are like $1,500 to $2,000 for basically a portable PC in the hand.
What? You can buy a TV.
Yeah, exactly.
So no head, that'd be a big screen.
That's a big point too. Is that the Switch is an affordable console compared to a portable PC.
2 PS5s.
It's
not 5 PS5s.
If you can get 2 PS5s. If you can get 2 PS5s.
Yeah, if you can actually get your hands on one, then you would be able to get 2 PS5s. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting place they're in, because that is the other half of it. Is that sure the Steam Deck is showing the way in terms of what can be done on that in that perspective, but also it's really expensive. So, any other thoughts on all things Nintendo before we wrap things up? Because we've somehow managed to go for an hour and 10.
Wow, it's not even an award show.
It's not even an award show.
I'm shocked.
We can keep going. Well, Jamie's a good conversationalist. We've had lots of games to talk about here, and it's gone very well. But any other thoughts at all?
Oh, good.
Sweet. Matto?
Yeah, as I say, just give us Metroid Prime sometime soon. I'll be happy.
Yeah, if that remake's a thing, that could be the one that fills out the end of the year, or maybe it's Bayonetta that drops in there and Metroid kind of kicks off next year. I don't know.
That'd
We've
be
been talking
nice.
about Metroid Prime for too long, so I almost don't want to indulge too much. And well, that's the other thing. Where's Metroid Prime 4? Damn it.
Yeah. You told us, yeah, we're working on it
Still-
really hard. That was a year ago. What about now?
Oh, that was like 3 years ago. At this
I'm
point.
gonna start asking questions. Hey, when's
That
that
game's
release
basically
date?
done by now.
I'll ask Corey and see if he knows the release date.
Still hiring. We're still
Corey.
getting people.
Oh, dear.
Where's your developers? We need more developers. We
They're
need
working
Why
on
not?
God of War. We
Good.
can't have them in 2 places at once. Damn it.
Hey, Doug. Hey, Mr. Bowser. When's Metroid Prime 4 coming out?
You heard it here. We'll clip that one out. It's there for you, Doug. You're watching right now. We'll wrap things up there. If you enjoyed this episode of Patched, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. All the buttons down below, and hit the notification bell. That way you're alerted to every new video the moment it goes live on the channel. That includes more Patched, Player 2 Plays, Gamer School, and a whole bunch more. Visit the website, player2.net.au, for reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, links to the podcast series, the audio version of Patched, the Player 2 Pixelcast, and Dev Diary. We're on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au. Get a few bucks. Lower tiers early access, higher tiers monthly episode exclusives. And finally, there's Twitter. Matto.
Matto_Phil.
Jamie, where can people find you?
At Jamie Penningh.
Easy one to follow there. It's straight up his name, so make sure to look for that. Jamie is working on a cool written piece for Player 2 as well. As people would have seen recently, we're sourcing and we're paying up. We're cracking open the wallet and paying people for some features at the moment. And Jamie's got a cool idea that he pitched to us that we're a fan of. So look forward to something cool in written form from Jamie on the Player 2 website in the near future. I won't kind of spoil any of that. That's for you to do, and we'll put that out there when you're good and ready to go. But everyone should be looking forward to that because your pitch really fascinated me, and I'm keen to see more.
Great, looking forward to it.
And otherwise, again, thanks for coming on the show, mate. It was awesome to have you. It's been a little while, but hopefully the wait between your next episode with us, whether it's a Nintendo Direct or something else in the future, maybe we'll incorrectly predict which console's coming to the Switch next, and I don't know. We'll see where we go.
Not a problem.
Wii
That was
games
a
are
heap of
coming to
fun.
the Switch, and it turns out we just straight up skipped the GameCube. Or
It's
Game
just
Boy
all the
Advance.
it's all the Wii U games.
Yeah.
Oh, aren't they already there?
Yeah, good point.
Star
mate.
Fox Zero. That's the only one.
Ooh. Hey, no.
Xenoblade
No,
Chronicles
you
X.
can-
We need
you
that.
can
Yes,
take that
please.
off.
Zeldas. But yeah, they are getting there. They've almost cleaned them all up. But yeah, hopefully it's not too long before you're back on the show again. We'll work that in the near future. Otherwise, everyone, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week.